back. It is the Vegas Take, Sharp and Shapiro. Chris Wayne in studio. It's Monday. So glad you could join us. And also want to remind everybody, Michael Avenatti will be in studio on Wednesday, so that's going to be a lot of fun. Tomorrow we got Ron Futrell from Channel 8. But, Chris, we got a few interesting stories I want to get to outside of the world of politics. And I want to start with Cam Newton. I guess you could say at times he's a controversial figure. He says behavior, the way he said, not a criminal. That's not what I'm saying. But you know, certainly he's an interesting character to say the least. So there's a viral video that comes out where Cam Newton is on this airplane, right? He's on a plane, and apparently it's a 10-hour flight that he's on from Paris, and he goes up to a passenger, and this is all on video. He offers a passenger $1,500 for his seat so he can have more legroom. And, you know, look, this is a pretty big guy. I think he's around 6'5". He wanted the extra legroom space, but apparently this guy says no. And Cam Newton is standing there trying to persuade this guy. He says no. And eventually Cam Newton, he kind of has this little smirk on his face, and he walks away. And you know, Newton, his base salary is $16 million. But he did learn something in this story, if he didn't know already. Apparently, money can't buy you everything, right? It can't buy you legroom on an airplane, at least for this passenger. I'm going to tell you something right now. If I was sitting in that seat, he could have all the legroom he wants. Just give me 15 Benjis, and I'll be happy about it, man. What do you think about this story?
That's the thing. We don't know what the financial position was of the person sitting on the plane, right? We don't know. You know, what $15 would mean to them. Yes, obviously to the average Joe, a.k.a. myself and you, Shap, all right? I'm grabbing that $1,500 and running to that little seat in the back. But, hey, some people think differently. What I have an issue with, though, is the immediate jump to phrases like white privilege, okay? And people want to bring this into a race debate and a race issue. Okay,
that's stupid.
Look, we don't know. Was the guy on the plane that was sitting in the seat, had he been, you know, in the midst of a 15-hour flight from somewhere, right, around the world? Maybe he wanted the extra legroom and didn't want to go to a smaller seat. Okay, I mean, there's all kinds of reasons why he might have refused, you know, $1,500 from Cam Newton. Mm-hmm. But you know, of course, you know, in today's day and age in social media, everybody wants to chime in, and words like white privilege and it's a race issue are being brought up, and I just think it's way too premature. That's not we can't look inside the guy's head. We don't know what his reasoning is behind it, and so I think it's absolutely, you know, not in our best interest and premature, to say the least, to make that accusation.
No, it's a story that really is a big nothing as far as I'm concerned. Okay, so he wanted to change seats. He offered the guy some money. The guy said no. Who cares? But you're right. The reason why we bring it up because there are a lot of people that are saying, oh, the race was an issue here. It's complete idiocy. I mean, come on. I mean, it's just a guy that just didn't want to give up the seat. Yeah. But speaking of social media, and speaking of rumors and so on and so forth, and this is tied into Michael Avenatti. So as you know, there's this big Nike scandal where locally Brandon McCoy, Michael Avenatti alleges that Brandon McCoy was paid several payments by Nike to attend school at UNLV. Mm-hmm. So I happen to have Brandon McCoy's cell phone number back in the days, and I haven't called him. And I decided to call him today. I haven't really wanted to bother him, wanted to wait and see how this thing plays out. I learned that Michael Avenatti is coming in studio on Wednesday. So I said, whoa. Brandon McCoy might be in town, so I say to myself...
Now, quick background of this, of course. We're talking about Brandon McCoy. There's alleged that either he or people that around in his circle received payments from Nike in the thousands of dollars.
Right, that's what I said.
And Michael Avenatti is, you know, well, I got to give backstory as to, you know, so some of the listeners don't know exactly what we're talking about. So that's what we're at point. And Michael Avenatti has made allegations that a number of players at prominent schools around the country have gotten payments from Nike and maybe other shoe companies.
Exactly.
As well,
all right. So getting back to my story, where I left off was, I have Brandon McCoy's cell phone number, and Michael Avenatti's coming in studio on Wednesday. So I decided to give Brandon McCoy a call. I haven't seen him or talked to him in a few years. And Brandon knows who I am. I've actually been to some of his AAU teams games where he shows up. And he seems like a good dude. I've never had an issue with him or anything. You know, he seems like a good guy. So I give him a call. We have a brief conversation, and I say, hey, look, Avenatti's coming in studio Wednesday. Do you want to defend these allegations? Because on the record, he hasn't said anything about this. He's kept quiet. First thing he says to me is, well, you know, I appreciate that. But he said, I know the truth. Now, obviously, he knows the truth. Now, whether that means he accepted money or not, I don't know. But he said, Brian, I know the truth. And then I said, well, don't you want to defend yourself? And he said, look, I don't care what anyone says. Doesn't bother me a bit. That's what he said. And I said, well, Brandon, while I understand that, if somebody made accusations about me that were not true, I would want to face that person, especially if it's a prominent person that has said it on national TV and radio shows. We're not just talking about some idiot, who says something on the street or somebody with a Twitter account with 12 followers. We're talking about Michael Avenatti, who's got, say what you want about the guy, he's got like 1 million followers. And, what he says, like it or not, it does matter because a lot of people are listening or watching or reading, whatever. So I tried to make that case to him, and then he kind of deflected a little bit, and I didn't want to nag the guy and bother him. And then, one of the last things he said to me was, I appreciate you offering that. I might not be in town, which told me that he is in town, so it'd be the perfect time for McCoy to come in studio and face Avenatti face-to-face. I think that'd be fantastic because I want to give him an opportunity. And the last thing he said was, here's my agent. Let me give you my agent information, and we'll take it from there, which leads me to believe, no, he doesn't want to do it. If he wanted to do it, he would have said yes.
Well, Brian, you have to be a genius to kind of figure out what's going on here. You're putting him on the spot, okay? He's not going to come on a radio show or any type of media, for that matter, and be a smoking gun. Right? He's not going to come out and say, oh, you know what, everything's 100% true. It wouldn't be good for Brandon McCoy. It would be, obviously it would ignite, a legal storm.
Well, if he claims he didn't do anything wrong, but wouldn't you want to face Michael Avenatti? And by the way,
yeah, but what's Brandon McCoy going to say that's going to be anything that would be, either incriminating towards him or people around him?
First of all, here's what I think.
As well as both the NCAA as well as Nike.
Well, here's what I think, Chris. In all due respect to Brandon McCoy, I like the guy. I got nothing against him. He didn't exactly improve in year one here, and I don't put full blame on him. I put a lot of blame on the coaching staff, Marvin Menzies, but that's in the past. But I will say this. Yes, I do believe that if Brandon McCoy didn't personally get paid, I absolutely believe family members, somebody got paid for him to go to school here. I believe Michael Avenatti. Now, there might be a slight chance I'm wrong here, but I don't think Avenatti would be lying. He said it on this show that he 100% has bank accounts, payments, and proof. We are going to see that because he's going to be going to court. I think they put up a court date for this Nike thing. So we'll wait and see what happens. I didn't want to, like you said, bombard Brandon McCoy. I just asked him. I said, hey, I'd love for you to come on. Doesn't seem like he's going to do it, but that's how the conversation went down. I wish Brandon McCoy the best, but he's certainly not going to get in trouble with this. It's certainly UNLV that's at stake here.
Well, here's the thing. He kind of said, what the crux of the whole thing is when in the conversation with you. When you say, I know the truth, okay, you would expect, you can infer from that, he knows the truth. And if it was in any way could exonerate him or, prove that Michael Avenatti is lying or completely false or wrong and that none of this ever happened and that nobody, either himself or anybody else, has received money, hey, he would, you would expect any normal person would want to blast that to the hilltops, right? And come on any type of media and say, it's false, it's wrong, I'm innocent, never happened, okay? So when he makes a statement like that to you, Brian, where he says, I know the truth, yet he's not willing to come on any media and discuss that or even talk around the edges on that, you can get a pretty good idea, okay, of what the reality is and what actually happened. And so, I guess we can make a determination on that, given that it's extremely probable that we're never going to have him on the air talking about it.
Yeah, unfortunately. But again, like I said, I wish him the best. I think the biggest issue facing allegedly, with these payments, illegal payments, would be UNLV, and there could be sanctions. So we'll have to wait and see what happens. Yeah. Want to switch topics here quickly. As you know, the World Series of Poker going on right now at the Rio. It has been going on for several weeks. The main event coming up really soon. So every year they induct up to 2 individuals to the Poker Hall of Fame. It happens on July 15th. And usually every year they go down to 10 finalists. They're at that point right now. And there's a 21-person panel of poker industry media members that determine who's in and who's out. So they're down to 10 people right now. Let me give out a few names. You recognize them. Huckleberry Seed, legend in the game. David Oppenheim, legendary cash game player, Chris Moneymaker, who, by the way, we're going to try to get on the show this week, who really was the main reason why poker had that big, huge jump. Here's a guy that I think it was like $40. He won a seat to play in the main event when his opinions ends up winning.
Satellite.
Yeah, I absolutely believe it. Mike Matusow, our buddy Mike the Mouth Matusow, has been on this show before, a friend of mine. I do believe he deserves to get in. Ted Forrest, another great cash game player. Antonio Esfandiari, Eli Elezra, David Chu, Chris Bjorn. So there's some really good names in there. Here's one name that I cannot believe is on this list. His name is Chris Jesus Ferguson. Now, Chris Ferguson won the World Series of Poker. He's got some bracelets. He's won a lot of money in poker. He's also one of the most shameful players on the circuit today. And if you recall, the reason for that is he was a part of the Ponzi scheme at Full Tilt Poker, the online poker website that did not pay out players. It was a huge Ponzi scheme, and a lot of people got in trouble for it. And actually, it was Chris Ferguson and David Lederer who were indicted on charges, and they got off, and they were really lucky they didn't go to jail. They paid huge fines. For lack of a better term, let's just call it for what it is. They stole money from online poker players. They absolutely did. Ferguson has been showing up at the World Series of Poker for the last couple years. And last year, he put out this pitiful, pathetic 45-second apology, a half-hearted apology. And a lot of poker players that have come on this show, guys like Phil Hellmuth and Daniel Negreanu, were criticizing him for that. Now, even though I'm not a big Howard Lederer guy, Howard Lederer did apologize way before Ferguson did. Howard Lederer got more out in the open and apologized. Ferguson really never did. And he shows up at the World Series of Poker with his stupid little hat and long hair, and people want to ask him questions, and all the thief says, and that's why I'm going to call him a thief, because that's what he is. All he says to the media is, "I'm just here to play poker, guys. I'm just here to play poker." And I am surprised that nobody has jumped Chris Ferguson. I am surprised that he is, and I'm not saying I want this to happen, but I am shocked that nobody has jumped Chris Ferguson at the World Series of Poker. And this guy, this scumbag, is on the 2019 Poker Hall of Fame finalist. Let me tell you something. If these idiots in the media, and I hope they're not idiots, but they are if they vote this guy in, I'll give you two names that I would put in there. Absolutely 100% Chris Moneymaker. Even though the guy, won a World Poker Tour event and that's it, and then he won the main event, it was Chris Moneymaker the reason why poker got that big jump. He started the craze. Chris Moneymaker absolutely 100% needs to be in the Poker Hall of Fame. Look, there's a couple other big names in there. I wouldn't put Eli Elezra in, but I would put Antonio Esfandiari in. I would put Mike Matusow in. Probably Huckleberry Seed as well. And look, they're all big names that are on there. But
now this is like a subjective list, right?
10.
It's not. No, I'm saying like the criteria as far as being a Hall of Famer. It's basically you get voted in by a panel of, is it former players or what is it? Some kind of panel?
You have to be, like I said, a 21-person media panel of poker industry people. You have to be a minimum of 40 years old at the time of nomination. You have to have played for high stakes, played consistently well, gaining the respect of peers. I guess that's subjective. You have to have stood the test of time, whatever that means, or for non-players contributed to the overall growth and success of poker. I would argue that Chris Ferguson, to this point, as a whole, has not contributed to the overall success of poker. In fact, the opposite, and maybe partly for the reason why many people do not trust online poker. He has done the opposite, Chris Ferguson, as far as I'm concerned. Certainly when it comes to online poker, they don't trust it anymore.
And the reason I ask that is because is there some type of code of ethics, right? Because you think about sports Hall of Fame, for example.
Right.
I'll use the Major League Baseball Hall of Fame, right? You think about Barry Bonds, okay? He's not in the Hall of Fame, all right? So, and he's never actually convicted of anything, but there is this knowledge that he did use performance-enhancing drugs, okay, back in the 90s. And so that is something that is a huge black stain on his career. And for all intents and purposes, himself, along with a number of other players, are not being considered to be in the Hall of Fame. So, I mean, this is something that I would tie exactly to a guy like Chris Ferguson, because there are ethics questions there as to whether or not that's somebody that you would want representing the poker world in the Poker Hall of Fame.
No, it's bad.
Yeah.
And it's bad. And speaking of poker, though, who's the guy the Jeopardy guy? I'm sorry, I forgot his name.
I don't remember his name, but he's over there. And actually,
so he played in a tournament earlier today. I apologize. I'm drawing a blank here. I forgot his name. Guy who conquered Jeopardy. This is a really cool story. He played in an event today. Don't remember which event it was. He shows up at the World Series of Poker, talked to the media for a little bit, and he said whatever money he wins.
Jeopardy James Holzhauer is his name. Yes.
So he won, or he said whatever money that he won, he would donate 50% to charity, which I think is pretty cool. Now, unfortunately, he did not finish in the money. But I thought that was a really cool gesture. You want to talk about a really smart guy. Boy, is that an understatement.
Mm-hmm.
Probably a really good poker player, too. I just thought that was really cool.
And he's actually planning to partner up with Mike Sexton, who is, by the way,
from the World Poker Tour broadcaster.
In another contest, too.
Yep. So that's
Seth Blansky was saying also today.
So that's really cool. Yep. That's a cool story. WSOP. By the way, we've seen Hessel, NHL All-Star. He was there.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen some Williams was there, and a couple other celebrities that I'm drawing a blank on right now. But we've seen some celebrities there. Usually they
Richard
flock.
Sherman was there.
Richard Sherman, yes.
NFL player.
Thank you. Yes. So a lot of the guys show up for the main event, the $10,000 event that's coming up soon. But check out the WSOP because it's free to go to.
And the big one for the One Drop must be coming up pretty soon too. Also,
I believe so. Yeah, it's great. It's fun. It's fun to stop by. It's free to check it out. So be sure to check it out. All right, C-Win. Well, another show in the books. Reminder to everybody: Michael Avenatti will be in studio Wednesday. And by the way, Donald Trump Jr. is tweeting about him right now. We'll get to that tomorrow. Donald Trump Jr. and Michael Avenatti in another Twitter war. Maybe or maybe it doesn't have something to do with the Twitter stuff that was going on earlier today with the Vegas take. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. A lot to get to. Ron Futrell from Channel 8 will be joining us in studio tomorrow as well. What will Donald Trump say next, folks? Maybe he gets accused by another woman and he comments on her looks. Well, we'll talk about it tomorrow. I promise you. Chris, thanks for joining us. As always
a good time, Brian. Thanks for having me. And I'll anticipate you giving Ron Futrell some parental advice tomorrow on the show.
So the legend, Ken Thompson, he's here. He's coming up next, folks. Stay tuned for that. The Vegas Take. Thanks for joining us, everybody. 101.5 FM, 720 AM KDWN.